Good afternoon, Sage here reporting to you live from the 𝐶𝐿𝐼𝐴 studios, and it's lunchtime here in Sydney, so you know what that means. It's time for the Mid-Market Pulse. In the show, we'll take a look at the Australian share market's performance, stocks that topped the gainers and losers charts, and in the final segment, we'll focus on the stocks that grabbed the headlines today. The Australian shares continued to trade lower by the afternoon, albeit erasing half of the early losses, led by sharp sell-offs in the blue-chip mining stocks such as BHP, Rio Tinto, Fortescue and Mineral Resources. The weak cues from Wall Street and a fall in commodity prices weighed on market sentiments, while record spikes in COVID-19 cases also left investors jittery. In the last 24 hours, New South Wales has reported 681 new local infections, which is a new daily record for the state. The ASX 200 was currently trading 0.47% lower by lunch, extending losses for the fourth straight session. The index opened lower today and declined as much as 1%. Investors also reacted to corporate earnings, with some big players such as Origin Energy, IRS Star Entertainment Group, Evolution Mining, Redbubble, Perpetual, Newcrest Mining and others declaring their earnings results this morning. Moving on now to the sectoral front, 8 of the 11 sectors were trading in the red. The materials sector was the worst performer, with over 3% loss, owing to falls in iron ore prices. Iron ore slumped 4.6% overnight, and in the metal space, the index heavyweight BHP was the worst performer, followed by Rio Tinto and Fortescue Metals. Materials sector was followed by energy, which dropped 1.8% due to a slip in the crude oil prices, and the oil prices have softened, with Brent crude dropping 2.4%, while the US oil fell 3.1%. Among others, AREIT consumer staples, utilities and telecom witnessed selling pressure. Bucking the trend, however, consumer discretionary sector emerged as the best performer, with a 0.8% gains. And information technology, healthcare sector as well, saw spurts in buying activity. Let's now turn our attention to the biggest gainers and losers in the mid-market session. Civil and mining contractor NRW Holdings topped the gainers chart by rising nearly 14%. The stock rallied after the company reported 11.5% rise in revenue to 2.3 billion Australian dollars for 2021's financial year, which was in line with the company's guidance. The earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation and amortisation rose 6.7%, up to 266.7 million Australian dollars. Some of the other notable gainers were telecom service provider Chorus, financial services firm Netwealth Group, gaming and entertainment firm Star Entertainment Group, and travel firm Corporate Travel Management. On the flip side, the tech firm Codan emerged as a top loser, falling 8.7%. And some of the other notable losers were the mining firm Mineral Resources, Metal and Mining's Group, IGO, and iron ore miner BHP Group, as well as the royalty company Deterra Royalties. And now, before we take a look at the shares that are in the news today, it's time for a short break.
Tune in to get the latest information.
Whether it's about market movements or the currency graph,
sectoral coverage or industry news.
we cover it all on our news segments.
Be on top of the latest news
with 𝐶𝐿𝐼𝐴 TV.
Welcome back. Thanks for joining us. Sage here. You're watching 𝐶𝐿𝐼𝐴 TV live from Sydney. This is the Mid-Market Pulse show. Let's now take a look at the stocks that hogged the limelight today. And shares of utility-focused firm Origin Energy dropped nearly 2% on disappointing earnings for the full financial year 2021. The company reported a statutory loss of 2.29 billion Australian dollars for 2021's financial year, as the COVID-19 pandemic and rapid rise of renewable energy impacted prices across the business. The passive loss includes impairments of 2.25 billion Australian dollars against some of its generation assets and in relation to a deferred tax liability. The company's free cash flow remained robust at 1.14 billion Australian dollars, driven by high cash conversion in energy markets due to lower working capital requirements and lower interest and tax payments. Origin's board has also determined an unfranked final dividend of 7.5 cents per share. Shares of Newcrest Mining also made the news, being up 0.5% after the gold miner delivered strong annual profits. The earnings of the country's largest listed gold miner were boosted by higher gold prices, which rose over 25% in 2020 due to pandemic-led uncertainty. Melbourne-based firm achieved gold production of 2.1 million ounces and a record copper production of 142.7 thousand tonnes in 2021's financial year. The underlying profit increased to 1.16 billion Australian dollars from 647 million Australian dollars a year earlier. It also declared a final dividend of 40 cents a share compared with 25 cents a year earlier, and analysts estimate 33 cents. However, the gold miner lowered outlooks for the gold output for fiscal 2022 as it expects production to weaken at its Cadia mine. And the blue chip miner BHP Group extended falls for the second day on decisions to merge petroleum business. The mining giant on Wednesday announced that it will exit from its $13 billion petroleum business to focus on the core assets. The group will sell its petroleum assets to Woodside Petroleum, creating a new, bigger petroleum company. The BHP shareholders will have a 48% stake in the new entity. Shares of Humm Group climbed nearly 2% and made the news after the buy now, pay later player reported robust earnings for 2021's financial year. The cash net profit after tax was more than doubled to 68.4 million Australian dollars in 2021's financial year, driven by increased profitability in its commercial and leasing card segments. Statutory net profit after tax rose 160.2%, and the company's buy now, pay later volumes rose 31.3%, while app downloads surged 75.8%. Active customer base also rose by 19.7%. Next up in the newsmakers is shares of Domino's Pizza, who continued gaining for the second day, rising over 2% on robust earnings. The company on Wednesday reported 27% growth in underlying earnings before interest and tax, reaching 293 million Australian dollars for the financial year 2021. And the food sales surged 14.6%, driven by an increase in stores that included 126 new outlets in Japan alone. The company has also announced a final dividend of 85.1 cents per share, 70% franked, with an ex-dividend date of August 25th. Shares of Resolute Mining is next. They fell 1.7% after the gold miner flagged an impairment between 165 million to 175 million US dollars for its half-year results to June 30th, 2021. The company is set to release its half-year results on August 27th. And shares of online marketplace Airtasker gained 0.5% following earnings reports, and the company has reported a net loss of 9.7 million Australian dollars, while the sales grew 38% in the financial year 2021. The company said lockdowns had reduced gross merchandise value by 12% in July compared to pre-lockdown numbers. It plans to invest 20 million Australian dollars into growing its business in the US and the UK out into financial year 2023. And thank you for joining us on that report. That's all for now, but please do keep watching 𝐊𝐿𝐴𝐼𝐴 TV as we bring you the latest news and trending market updates live from Sydney. And Sage signing off.